They thought they were clever, smiling at me while secretly rewriting our father's will to cut me out completely. What they didn't know was that I had studied law for 6 years, and I wasn't about to let them steal what was mine. In the end, I didn't just take back my share, I took everything. If you've ever felt betrayed by the people who were supposed to love you most, hit that like button, subscribe, and buckle up, because this story is the definition of legal revenge, and it ends with justice that'll give you chills. Let me set the scene. I grew up in a middle-class family in rural Oregon. Not wealthy, but we were comfortable. My father owned a small construction business he'd built from scratch, and I always admired him for that. I'm the youngest of 3. My older brother, Nick, and my sister, Rachel, were always closer to each other. I used to think it was because I was the quiet one. Now I know better. When my mother passed away, I was just 16. Dad leaned on me emotionally. More than he did Nick or Rachel. We bonded over grief, talked late into the night, and in a weird way, became best friends. After high school, I didn't go into the family business, I went to law school. My dad respected that. Supported me. Paid my tuition without hesitation. He used to say, if I can build walls, you can build cases. I never thought money or inheritance would be an issue in our family. But grief has a way of revealing people's true colors. 3 years ago, Dad was diagnosed with cancer. He fought for 18 months, chemo, surgeries, hospital stays, but in the end, it was just too much. He passed away peacefully in his sleep. I was devastated. A few weeks after the funeral, I reached out to Nick and Rachel to discuss the will. I assumed we'd split things evenly. We're siblings. That's what families do, right? That's when Rachel gave me a weird look and said, "You're not in it." I laughed. I thought she was joking. She wasn't. They had convinced my father, when he was heavily medicated and barely lucid, to sign a revised will. A version that left everything to them, the business, the house, the savings, even my mother's jewelry. They didn't even have the decency to tell me in private. They invited me to a reading of the will like it was a Netflix drama, then sat across from me smirking while the attorney confirmed it all. And then Nick leaned in, with that smug face of his, and said, "Hey, at least you've got your fancy degree, right?" I sat there, stunned. Betrayed. Abandoned. Worthless. I didn't cry in front of them. I didn't scream. I just nodded, and walked out. I sat in my car for almost an hour, numb. I kept hearing my dad's voice in my head, saying, "You're the one I trust the most." Then it hit me. Dad would never have done this, ***, not in his right mind. I may have been quiet grow, but I wasn't stupid. I was a trained legal professional now. And if they wanted a fight, they were about to get one. First, I got a copy of the revised will. That was easy. Public record. Then I pulled Dad's medical records. Every doctor visit, prescription, and hospital intake form for the last 2 years. That took some time, but once I had it all, the pattern was obvious. The new will had been signed 12 days before his death, during a time when his records showed he was on morphine and barely coherent. The signature was shaky. It didn't match his past handwriting. Even worse? The notary was a friend of Rachel's. Conflict of interest. Oh, and Dad's longtime lawyer? He'd been mysteriously replaced a few months earlier with someone Nick found online. My legal instincts were screaming. So I built my case quietly. Spent weeks gathering evidence. I didn't let my siblings suspect a thing. Then, I filed a challenge to the will based on undue influence, fraud, and lack of capacity. Nick and Rachel were served court papers at the family business. Guess how I found out? Nick called me at midnight. Screaming. Threatening. Accusing me of trying to destroy the family. I just calmly said, "No, no. I'm trying to fix what you destroyed." The hearing lasted 2 months. I brought in Dad's former lawyer. He testified that my father ways. I brought in 2 doctors who confirmed that, at the time of the signature, my father was not mentally fit to sign any legal documents. I even had handwriting analysts testify that the signature was likely forged, or at the very least, signed under extreme duress. Nick and Rachel? They fumbled through lies. Contradicted themselves on the stand. Rachel even slipped up and admitted to helping Dad sign the will. The judge didn't even hesitate. The revised will? Thrown out. The original will, splitting everything equally, was reinstated. But it didn't end there. See, while I was preparing my legal case, I also discovered that Nick had been siphoning money from the family business, using company funds to buy himself a new truck, vacations, and even a hot tub. That's embezzlement. So I filed criminal charges. And then? I bought out Rachel's share of the business at market value. She was desperate for money to cover her legal fees. Now? I own the company. Nick was forced to sell his house to pay back the embezzled funds. Rachel had to move to a 1-bedroom apartment in a city she hates. And me? I work from my office. The same one my dad used to sit in. His photos on the wall. Sometimes, I walk past Nick's old office, which is now a supply closet, and smile. Nick and Rachel thought they could erase me with a signature. But they underestimated who I'd become. Not only did I take back what was rightfully mine, I did it legally, strategically, and with every ounce of justice my father taught me to believe in. They wanted everything. Now they have nothing. And me? I have peace. Sometimes, revenge doesn't come with fire and fury. Sometimes, it comes in court filings, notarized statements, and the quiet satisfaction of watching karma play out in perfect silence. Because justice? Justice isn't loud. It's precise. If this story gave you chills, smash that like button and tell us in the comments, have you ever been betrayed by your own family? And don't forget to subscribe for more stories where revenge is served cold and legally. See you in the next one.